She was the luminous face of Hollywood's golden age, a symbol of elegance, intelligence, and integrity. But in 1950, Ingrid Bergman made one personal choice that shattered her career, ignited a national scandal, and got her effectively banished from America. It wasn't a crime. It wasn't treason. It was love, and a refusal to live a lie. This is the true story of how a woman adored on screen became a target of moral outrage, political condemnation, and media hysteria. Ingrid Bergman didn't just lose her Hollywood status, she lost her country. And the real reason behind her exile will leave you stunned. When Ingrid Bergman arrived in the US from Sweden in the late 1930s, she was a revelation. Tall, natural, and effortlessly luminous, she broke the mold of glamour queens like Greta Garbo or Marlene Dietrich. Audiences fell in love with her authenticity. Studios rushed to cast her in prestige dramas, including Casablanca, Gaslight, and Spellbound. She wasn't just beautiful, she was credible, grounded, real. By the mid-1940s, Bergman was one of the most respected and highest-paid actresses in Hollywood. But the image she built, pure, wholesome, morally upright, would soon become the very thing that turned the public against her. In 1949, while filming in Italy, Bergman began a passionate affair with director Roberto Rossellini. She was still married to Swedish surgeon Petter Lindström, with whom she had a young daughter. The affair quickly escalated into a scandal. Because Bergman didn't hide it, she moved to Italy, became pregnant, and gave birth to Rossellini's child before finalizing her divorce. In post-war America, this was seen not as a personal decision, but as a betrayal of moral standards. The backlash was immediate, brutal, and widespread. The public wasn't just outraged, they felt deceived. The saintly woman they adored had turned into a scandal. Unlike today's tabloid scandals, Bergman's affair wasn't just gossip, it became a national crisis. Preachers denounced her from pulpits, newspapers ran editorials calling her a homewrecker. Even the U.S. Senate got involved. In 1950, Senator Edwin C. Johnson of Colorado stood before Congress and declared, "Out of Ingrid Bergman's ashes will grow a better Hollywood." He called her a powerful influence for evil. Bergman wasn't charged with a crime, but her reputation was put on public trial. No actress, not even those with darker secrets, had been shamed this openly. Bergman's crime wasn't infidelity. It was stepping outside the carefully constructed image America demanded from its stars. Once the scandal broke, Hollywood distanced itself fast. Studios that had once fought for her now pulled back offers. MGM canceled her next contract. PR agents dropped her. She wasn't officially blacklisted, but she may as well have been. No American studio would hire her. For an actress at the top of her career, it was a professional death sentence. She left Hollywood not in defiance, but in exile. Some believed she would never return, and for years she didn't. She found work in Europe, mostly with Rossellini, but her American stardom had vanished, buried under moral outrage and cultural hypocrisy. Ingrid Bergman wasn't just followed by reporters. She was targeted. Headlines branded her public enemy number one. Columnists compared her to a criminal. Some outlets published open letters calling for her deportation. And while male stars with affairs were forgiven or even celebrated, Bergman became the poster child for betrayal. The press exploited her silence, spinning every move into evidence of arrogance or shame. Bergman rarely defended herself. She let the work speak when she was allowed to work. But the media's vendetta showed just how quickly a woman's personal life could be weaponized in the name of moral panic. Her relationship with Rossellini, while romanticized in the press as scandalous, was complicated. They married, had 3 children including twin daughters, and made several films together. But the creative partnership struggled. Rossellini wanted control. Bergman, used to the efficiency of Hollywood, clashed with his chaotic style. Their movies were artistic but often poorly received. Audiences didn't want their idol in new realist Italian dramas. They wanted the woman from Casablanca. The marriage became strained. The pressure of exile, cultural differences, and career decline all took a toll. Eventually, Bergman realized she had sacrificed Hollywood, but hadn't found peace. Throughout the early 1950s, Bergman worked mostly in Europe, far from the cameras that once adored her. Critics dismissed her. audiences forgot her. She was no longer welcome in the country where she'd once been a queen. For years, her name was associated with disgrace. She lived quietly in Rome and Paris, focusing on her children, trying to make peace with the life she had chosen. But the artist inside her never went away. She still wanted to act, still wanted to create, and deep down she knew someday she would return, but the path back wouldn't be easy. In 1956, director Anatole Litvak cast Bergman in Anastasia, a story about a woman reclaiming her lost identity. It was more than a part, it was a metaphor. Fox agreed to distribute the film in the US, giving her a cautious re-entry into American cinema. The performance was stunning. Critics raved, and the Academy took notice. That year, Ingrid Bergman won her second Oscar, but she wasn't even allowed in the country to accept it. Her friend Cary Grant accepted on her behalf. It was a quiet victory. But for Bergman, it meant everything. The doors weren't fully open, but they were no longer locked. Bergman finally returned to America in 1958, almost a decade after her exile began. She walked back onto American soil not with an apology, but with grace. Reporters asked if she felt vindicated. She simply smiled. She wasn't there to prove a point. She was there to work. That same year, she began filming The Inn of the Sixth Happiness, and the box office responded. The scandal had faded. Time had softened the outrage, and Hollywood, always hungry for a comeback story, welcomed her, quietly, back into the fold. She never demanded forgiveness. She just kept moving forward. Privately, many in Hollywood admitted the industry had failed her. Directors who once blacklisted her now praised her resilience. Publicists who once dropped her now offered campaigns. In later interviews, stars like Audrey Hepburn, Sophia Loren, and Meryl Streep cited Bergman as a symbol of strength. Even the Academy, once silent during her exile, honored her again in 1975 with a third Oscar for Murder on the Orient Express. The scandal that once defined her became a footnote, but the pain she endured wasn't erased. Hollywood didn't say sorry, but in its quiet, admiring embrace, it finally showed respect. Ingrid Bergman was more than a movie star. She was a woman who lived on her terms in an era that punished women for doing so. She didn't play the victim. She didn't beg for approval. She followed her heart, even when it broke her image, her career, and nearly her identity. She once said, "I've gone from saint to whore to saint again, all because I dared to love." That quote wasn't defiance, it was truth. And in her quiet dignity, she gave future generations of women permission to live boldly, even when the world wasn't ready. Ingrid Bergman's Exile wasn't just about infidelity, it was about control. About how easily fame turns to fury when a woman steps outside her assigned role. Her punishment wasn't legal, it was moral, cultural, and public. But her return, that was revolution. She came back not with a scandal, but with art. Not with apology, but with honesty. Bergman's story isn't just a Hollywood scandal, it's a mirror. A lesson in how society treats women who break the mold. And how, with patience and truth, even the harshest exile can become a legacy of strength. Ingrid Bergman was banished not for a crime, but for being real in a world that demanded perfection. And yet, she survived the backlash, outlasted the shame, and reclaimed her place in film history. If this story made you see her in a new light, like, comment, and subscribe to Silver Screen Secrets, where we bring the hidden truths behind the brightest stars to life. Because sometimes, the most powerful performances don't happen on screen. They happen in the choices no one sees.